Hey everyone, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm really glad you found your way to this space. Today we're picking up on a conversation that's been stirring a lot of emotion lately, and for good reason. The 2026 Social Security Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA, may seem like just a small number in a report, but for millions of Americans, it's become a monthly balancing act between rent, groceries, medicine, and dignity. Now, here's the latest. This month, the estimated increase in benefits has been updated from 2.3% to 2%. That might sound like a small bump, and technically it is, but if you're living on a fixed income, every dollar counts. And for a lot of you, even that $48 monthly raise based on the average $2,000 benefit doesn't come close to closing the gap on rising expenses. But we're not just going to talk about numbers today. We're going to talk about what those numbers actually feel like for people, because your comment from the last video spoke volumes. Before we go on, I'd love to hear from you again. If your cost of living has gone up, or if you're feeling the pressure of rising prices, let me know in the comments. And if you want to keep following these updates, hit that subscribe button so we can stay connected as things continue to shift. Now, let's talk about where things stand. Inflation is slowing, which is part of why the COLA estimate is lower than the big spikes we saw in 2022 and 2023. Back then, COLAs hit 5.9 and even 8%. Some of the highest we've seen in decades. But now the CPIW, which is the index used to determine COLA, is showing a much smaller increase in prices, just around 2.1% over the last year. That slowdown sounds like good news, and in some ways it is. But here's the disconnect. Prices might not be rising as quickly, but they're still high. And when your income stays nearly flat, while your rent, prescriptions, or grocery bills are up 20 to 30% over the last few years, it still feels like falling behind. And a lot of you shared that exact feeling in the comments. One person said it simply but powerfully. "We don't just eat soup." That stuck with me because it's not just a comment. It's a picture of what real struggle looks like. Others described the COLA as just crumbs for the peasants, or said flat out, "It's a scam." That might sound harsh to some, but when you look at the numbers and live with the reality behind them, you can understand the frustration. So let's get into why this estimate is what it is. The government calculates COLA using the CPIW, which reflects spending patterns of urban workers under 62, but that doesn't match up with how most seniors spend their money. Older adults are spending far more on healthcare and housing. Expenses that aren't properly weighted in this calculation. And it's not just a theory. Surveys show that around 20% of seniors are spending over $1,000 a month just on healthcare. More than half live on less than $2,000 total each month, and about 39% rely entirely on Social Security. So when you look at those numbers, it's clear that even a 2.4% raise might not do much. This has left many people asking, why are we still using a system that doesn't reflect senior reality? There's a better index out there called CPI that focuses specifically on seniors' cost categories, but despite being discussed for years, it's still not the standard. Another thing you brought up a lot was Medicare, and I hear you. Some of you mentioned losing nearly $185 a month for coverage you either don't use or can't afford. One person even said they haven't seen a doctor in years, but still paying Medicare. That's a painful contradiction. Paying for care you can't access while watching your only income get smaller. Now, there have been some recent efforts to address prescription drug costs. Just this past month, a new executive order was signed that tells pharmaceutical companies to match their U.S. prices to what they charge in other developed countries. If they don't comply within 30 days, the federal government could step in to cap payments. That could mean relief down the line. The order also allows for more drug imports and direct-to-consumer sales at international price points. But it's worth remembering this is an executive order, not a full law. There's still a long road ahead, and legal challenges could delay any real savings. On top of that, we've got tariffs in the mix again. A temporary agreement between the U.S. and China lowered some of the steepest tariffs for 90 days. That helped ease some pricing pressure, at least for now. But if those tariffs return, or if new ones are added, prices could spike again. And if that happens between July and September, it could change the final COLA number, which is set to be announced in October. So what does all this mean for your wallet? Well, if inflation holds steady, the 2.4% estimate may stick. But if prices go up, especially on essentials like food or medicine, we might see a higher adjustment. That sounds like good news, but there's a catch. You'll feel the inflation before you see the benefit. And that gap where prices rise but your check stays the same is where the real pain happens. Another viewer said something that really stayed with me. While any increase sounds helpful, it often feels like it barely keeps up with the real cost of living. That sense of being behind, not just financially but emotionally, is something we heard over and over. And that brings us to the bigger picture. Social Security is still under pressure. The trust fund is projected to face shortfalls within the next decade unless reforms are made. Some policymakers want to raise the income cap on taxes. Others want to revise how COLA is calculated, but so far there's no clear fix. Meanwhile, over 7% of seniors rely on Social Security for at least half their income. And 93% say that protecting these programs should be a top national priority. It's not a fringe issue. It's something that affects nearly everyone in some way. Whether you're receiving benefits now or planning for retirement later. Have you had to cut something out just to stay within budget? Are you worried about the future of Social Security? I read what you write and I try to include your voices in these updates because your experience matters. And if this helped you feel more informed or seen, consider sharing it with someone else who might be going through the same thing. I'll be here with more updates as the numbers shift and as decisions are made. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.